Mike Madigan was chairman of the State Democratic Party at the time. Yes?
Earlier you mentioned that Easter was elected with lieutenant governor.
Yes.
Are lieutenant governor and governor always elected together?
They are. In Illinois, the candidate for governor usually who he wants to be his running mate, and they run together as a team in both the primary election and the general election. So one vote for both. Yes?
I have a question. Why would J.B. Pritzker use over $100 million of his own money to become governor, even though the salary of the job is less than $500,000?
Well, are you talking about should there be some limits on that? I wasn't.
I don't know, why would somebody donate $100 million for their own campaign? It's less than $500,000.
Well, he can spend as much as he wants of his own money.
I don't know the reason why.
What's that? Well, he got him elected governor, and now he's becoming a figure on the national stage. A lot of folks think he's considering a run for president in 2028. So, yeah, he not only did he spend a lot of money on his own campaign, he also has donated a lot to the various Democratic candidates running statewide, congressional-wide, in-state and out-of-state, both, trying to get his become more prominent within the Democratic Party as he considers this run for president in 4 years. So he's a graduate of Duke and Northwestern University, and in 2008 he did serve as the national co-chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Office of the governor is the most powerful office in state government. The government is the chief executive of the state. The governor's primary job is to ensure that once a bill becomes law, he is responsible to make sure it is carried out. He plays a big role in shaping legislation through himself and his staff and affecting public policy. Each year he gives the State of the State speech to the state legislature. He makes numerous appointments to office. He can issue pardons. He can call out the Illinois National Guard. I live in Western Illinois in Henderson County, and I can recall we are along the Mississippi River, and it's flooded in 3 occasions over the last 30 years. And the National Guard has been called out to help sandbag, and if a levee broke, they would go into some communities and help protect those communities. So they were always called out by the governor at that point. The governor can call special sessions of the state legislature, and he can propose and implement the state budget upon approval from the legislature. We'll talk a little bit more about the 2024 budget in a few minutes. When both chambers of the state legislature approve bills, the legislation is sent to the governor, and the governor can approve the bill by signing it into law, or he can veto the bill. Anybody see this gentleman here? Okay. Who does that look like?
President Joe Biden.
It was then Vice President Joe Biden, but yes, he was at that signing event. Former Governor Bruce Rauner is shown here with school children signing education-related legislation. And then this is Governor Pritzker when he signed legislation in 2019, which raised the legal age to purchase tobacco products from 18 to 21 years of age. The governor's power to veto. If the governor does not support legislation passed by both chambers of the legislature, he can veto the bill. On appropriation bills, he can has a power to veto certain spending amounts using what is called the line item veto. He can specifically go in there and cross it out and pass the rest of the bill. But then if he does veto the full bill, it will go back to the state legislature, and they can override the governor's veto if they repass the original bill by a 3/5 vote of both chambers. If the General Assembly does repass the original bill, the governor's veto is overridden, and the bill becomes law. These are the major state agencies and departments overseen by the governor through his chosen directors of each state department and agency. The governor is also directly responsible for Board of Higher Education, the Board of Trustees of Illinois universities, including here at Eastern. He appoints the trustees for EIU. He appoints members to the Student Assistance Commission, which handles scholarships and stipends to students, and also the State Community College Board. And then the governor has the power to appoint members to numerous state agency boards and authorities like regulatory boards, boards and state commissions, public safety agencies, and public or financing authorities. Okay, this was Governor Pritzker's legislative agenda when he first came into office in 2019. And these were some of the things he was able to accomplish in his first term as governor. They had a graduated income tax referendum that was put on the ballot in 2020, but voters did overwhelmingly reject this proposal during the November 2022 election. He also brought in sports betting and additional casinos to the state to bring more revenue. The smoking law we just talked about, where they raised purchasing tobacco products and e-cigarettes from 18 to 21 statewide. And he had some abortion restrictions were repealed, including repealing the state's partial birth abortion ban act and the Illinois Abortion Act of 1975. By the way, there is going to be a referendum on this year's ballot. How many of you are going to be 18 by November's election? I think quite a few of you. So there's usually 3 referendums that are added to the ballot, and one of the 3 referendums will be one to protect abortion rights. So those voters will have an opportunity to vote on that this year. The minimum wage increase, and they're actually working now to increase that even farther beyond the $15 per hour. They had a $40 billion state budget approved that year, and during that session, 19 new or increased taxes worth nearly $7 billion were proposed to provide some budget revenue. And then they did have the Rebuild Illinois Capital Program, which helped spend money for bridges, roads, public schools, and university buildings, including here on the EIU campus. To help pay for the program, the state gasoline tax went up in 2020 and was doubled, going from 19 cents per gallon to 38 cents per gallon. Registration fees also increased. They had a charge for electric vehicles, and the measure did increase the state's $1.98 per pack cigarette tax by $1. And there's a few other things, some parking taxes and whatnot. So a lot of taxes to get that budget. So this is the 2024 state budget that was just approved in the last 2 weeks. So there's hundreds of millions of dollars in tax increases, nearly $1 billion, just under $1 billion in increases. They are raising the state sports betting tax. They will end the 1% statewide grocery tax beginning on 1/1/26. The funny thing though, the state doesn't get any of that money. That money all goes to local governments and or county entities. So really it's not hurting the state by eliminating that tax. But it could hurt some of the local towns and municipalities that depend on some of that revenue. There's a $350 million increase in K-12 educational funding, and they did create a tax on credit card fees from retailers, which are called interchange fees. One of the big reasons that a lot of people opposed the 2020-24 state budget, all the Republicans voted against the budget, and there were a number of Democrats that also did, but there were enough of a Democratic majority in the state legislature that they were able to pass it anyway and send it to the governor. But non-citizen spending has been increased significantly under this new budget. They used to only spend a few million dollars per year to help immigrants come to Illinois, who were brought to Illinois. So this year, it was raised to nearly $1 billion to help immigrants and migrants come to Illinois and stay in Illinois. $182 million was designated specifically to the city of Chicago to assist with the migrant crisis in that city. And the state will now spend nearly $700 million per year to pay for the migrants' health care. Significant increase there. That's where most of that $1 billion is going to be spent, is for the health care. Other legislation that passed the Illinois State Legislature this year, they're going to have mobile state IDs soon, which you'll have a digital version of your Illinois driver's license soon available on cell phones, and it'll be accessible via an app, and there'll be a small fee for that. I was talking, whoops. Hang on here, there we go. We were talking to the Secretary of State folks that were here to register voters on Monday, and they said they expect that to roll out soon. It'd probably be like a $6 charge to be able to have that digital ID. Now, you'll still be required to have a card, but there are so many places now that, like going on to an airport, for example, you'd be able to use that digital ID going to check-in at airports and many other places. The only time you would really need the physical card is if you were pulled over by, law enforcement officials. So that'll be coming soon. They erased medical debt for 300,000 Illinois families. They added new abortion protections in the state. They passed new rules on artificial intelligence. They appropriated money for those with limited English skills. And then they did also bring on a new state mushroom, the Calvatia gigantea, which is known as the giant puffball. Personally, I live in West. Personally, I live in Western Illinois, and we hunt morel mushrooms in April and May. If I were to make a state mushroom, that would be my favorite, because I like it. All right. Okay. So right now you just learned about the executive branch. That's our first section. Now let's see how many of you, how much each of you know about your state and the elected governors from recent years in the state of Illinois. So in some cases we've had convicted criminals who did time in a federal prison or penitentiary. So what we'll do is we'll start with governors elected in 1960 and move it forward to today. So let's play a game called Can You Spot Convicted Illinois Governor? Okay, this is Otto Kerner. He was elected governor in 1960 and re-elected in 1964. Raise your hands if you think he was a convicted Illinois governor. Yes. Now he wasn't convicted while he was in office. He resigned his office in 1967 when President Lyndon Johnson appointed him as a federal judge. But in the 1970s, it was found that he had been convicted. He was given briberies of horse race stock, the owners of horse race tracks in the Chicago area, and he accepted that stock, and he ended up serving time and was convicted, served time in a federal penitentiary, and he had to resign his federal judgeship, lifetime appointment. Okay, this is Richard Ogilvie. He was elected governor in 1968. How many think he was a convicted Illinois governor? Nope. He did lose his re-election bid in 1972, and he was the governor who signed the first state income tax into law in 1969. Okay, this is Dan Walker. Who thinks he was a convicted Illinois governor? 1987, it had nothing to do with his work as governor specifically, but he was president of a bank in the Chicago suburbs, I believe it was Western Springs, and he pled guilty to federal charges of bank fraud, perjury, and filing false financial statements, and served 7 years in the federal pokey. This is James Thompson, elected in 1976, re-elected 3 other times.
Four terms.
4 terms. How many of you think he was a convicted Illinois governor? Nope. Okay, so did Jim Thompson. We talked the first night that you arrived here about the award. We have the James R. Thompson Scholarship, which is to be given to the governor. And a great friend of the Boy State program. He attended every year he was governor and came down. We we used to have our assemblies over in the football stadium here at Easter. And the governor would give a speech. He'd fly in on a helicopter, land it right in the infield of the football stadium there in the track. And so then he would, at the end of his speech, he said, boys, I'm going to take a little run. And he would have everybody, all the Boy Skaters coming out of the stands, and they'd do a lap around the track out there. So, great guy. And Governor Thompson did pass away within the last couple of years. Our longest serving governor. This is Jim Edgar, was elected governor in 1990 and re-elected in 1994. Raise your hands if you think he was a convicted Illinois governor. No! Governor Edgar, he grew up right here in Charleston, Illinois. He attended EIU, served as state representative before he was elected Illinois Secretary of State and Illinois governor. He served 2 terms. And he did serve as the student body president here at EIU while he was in school. This is George Ryan, elected in 1998. Raise your hand if you think George Ryan was a convicted Illinois governor. He was a former Illinois Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, and Speaker of the House before he was governor, and he was convicted of 22 federal charges in 2022. Much of this had to do when he was Secretary of State. Charges included racketeering, bribery, extortion, money laundering, and tax fraud. He has been released from prison. This is Rod Blagojevich, he elected in 2002, re-elected in 2006. Raise your hand if you think Rod Blagojevich was a convicted governor. Okay, Blago began serving a 14-year sentence in federal prison. What he tried to do was, when President Obama, he was our U.S. Senator, and he went to the presidency, there was a vacancy, and the governors get to appoint vacancies for the U.S. Senate or other state officials. And he tried to actually use that as a way of getting some money or getting some power. The federal government, they had some wiretaps, and he was caught and convicted. Pat Quinn was elected. Did you have a question? He didn't pardon him. He commuted his sentence, I believe, is how it was officially done. So his conviction still stood. Well, it wasn't fully pardoned, but they just let him out of prison. I think he was released 18 months to 2 years before he was scheduled to be. So maybe he'll be Trump's running mate. Who knows? Okay, Pat Quinn was elected in 2010. He actually succeeded Blagojevich. Blagojevich was removed by the state legislature, was impeached. And so in 2009, Pat Quinn became governor. He was elected in his own right in 2010. Who thinks he was a convicted Illinois governor? No? So yeah, Pat Quinn was serving as lieutenant governor, became governor of the state when Rod Blagojevich was impeached, and then was elected to governor in 2010, but lost re-election in 2014. So I think that's the last one I have. Governor Bruce Rauner, who was in office before J.B. Pritzker, he served 1 term, but he was not convicted and has not been impeached or convicted. So, with the article about political corruption in Illinois, only 45 individuals in the state, history of the state, including the 4 governors we discussed, were convicted. Most Illinois politicians are not corrupt or deserving of prison, and less than 0.05 of Illinois politicians have been convicted of crime. I do want to talk about a few of the things that are going on now regarding political corruption in our state. Next month, there's going to be a trial for Mike Madigan, and you mentioned Mike Madigan. He was the former Illinois Speaker of the House, served 30 years in that role. He was also the chairman of the Illinois Democratic Party for a number of years. And Lisa Madigan, his daughter, served as the Illinois Attorney General for 16 years. So that trial will be starting in July. And what he's been mainly, there are a number of charges, but the main thing he did he approached Commonwealth Edison, which is the large electrical concern that has power, electricity to the Chicago area and other parts of northern Illinois. He demanded, basically, they wanted some legislation passed. He demanded that they give him the power to appoint a board member to their board, to the Commonwealth Edison board. And then he also wanted as many scholarships as he could that he could distribute to his own folks in his house district. And then he also had a number of former legislators that had worked with him. They were all part of the Democratic Party. And these people, they required Commonwealth Edison and also Illinois Bell or Illinois AT&T to hire these folks to be lobbyists, but basically in most cases it was basically a no-show job. They were being paid a few $1,000s a month for not doing any work. So that's why he's going to trial. Alderman Ed Burke of Chicago was the longest-serving alderman in Chicago's city history, over 50 years as an alderman. But Alderman Burke, he started forcing some of the folks who were seeking building permits and his help in the city council. He told them, well, come to my law office and give my law office the business. And some of them didn't use his business. There was a Burger King on the south side in particular. They approached him about doing some remodeling and repaving of their parking lot. And they said, well, yeah, come to my office, law office, and we'll take care of you. 2 years later, nothing was done. Their request for having that work done was just not dealt with, and then they went back to Alderman Burke. He said, well, you should have come to my law office, and we would have taken care of it for you. So his wife was also the Chief Justice of the Illinois Supreme Court for a number of years, and Mr. Burke was a person in Cook County responsible for slating all the judges that were in the Cook County Circuit Court due to the Democratic Party nominating apparatus and endorsement apparatus. There was a fellow named Senator Martin Sandoval. He was the Senate Transportation Chairman, and he has passed away. He died during the COVID crisis several years ago. But they were putting red light cameras at intersections where they weren't needed and where the Department of Transportation determined they weren't needed. But he was paid bribes to get these lights there, and then they even used him to provide some bribery money from the red light camera companies. The company was called Redflex, and they were, he was used as the intermediary on a number of these cameras. Several members of the Illinois state legislature were given monthly payments of $2,000 to support legislation that brought the gaming devices into Illinois that you often see that are in many of the businesses around the state. So, I believe. Then there was Senator Tom Cole. Well, let me talk about this one. There was Alderman Patrick Daley Thompson. He was the grandson of Mayor Richard J. Daley, who was the long-serving mayor of Chicago from the 1950s until he passed away in 1976. And then his son was Richard M. Daley, who became mayor later on. So this Patrick Daley Thompson was the grandson of the first mayor. He actually lived in his grandfather's home in Bridgeport in south side of Chicago. And he was convicted of bribery and resigned his seat and has served time for that.
Another one of Richard Daley's sons went for mayor against Little Lightfoot in 2019 but lost.
Yeah, that was, his name was Patrick Daley. Yeah, that would have been his uncle, this gentleman's uncle, and Richard M. Daley's brother. Okay, we're going to kind of fly through some of this stuff. How does Illinois rank against the other 50 states in certain measures? This was a Chicago Tribune editorial that illustrated the strengths and weaknesses within our state. So what we rank high on taxes. At that point, we ranked number 5 overall. Some folks say that now we're either number 1 or number 2, and we'll talk about that one a little bit too. Overall infrastructure, we rank 10th. Digital life, we rank 14th in the country, pretty high. Educational spending for the K to 12, we rank 15th. The state's well-being, we rank 19th. That's kind of a generic term, kind of covers everything. In crime, we rank 21st. Happiness, we rank right in the middle, 25. Health, 26. Couch potatoes are 20, we rank 26. Healthcare, 27. Roads, 29. Our business tax climate, we rank 30 of 50 states. And in religious participation, we rank 33rd. Charitable giving, we rank 36. Pet ownership, we rank 46. Business climate, they say we're the third worst state for having a business climate and for promoting business in our state. And then at this time, we did rank 50th in state higher education funding. That's been improved somewhat since 2017. So we're not that low. We're not the lowest anymore, but we're still fairly low compared to the other 50 states. Okay, the Illinois exodus. Why are people leaving the land of Lincoln? In the past few years, Illinois has lost more residents than any other state. And these show the numbers from 2015, 2018, how many residents we lost per year. In 2017, we dropped from the 5th largest state to the 6th behind Pennsylvania. And shows the residency there. Okay, in 2020, the initial census showed Illinois' population at 12,800,000. But later on, Illinois filed a protest to the numbers, and then the Census Bureau did admit that Illinois was undercounted by nearly 250,000 individuals, and that Illinois' population is now over 13 million people. In 2017, Chicago was the only city among the nation's largest to lose population, and Illinois has been the top outbound state for many years. People leaving the state versus those arriving in the state. Okay, the Illinois exodus. Why are Illinois high school graduates attending colleges, universities, and other states? These numbers show that at that point, 48% of Illinois public high school graduates enrolled in four-year colleges did end up attending out-of-state colleges and universities. Okay, last year we asked the question of how many of you plan to leave Illinois. Well, let's say, how many of you plan to attend college outside of the state of Illinois? Over 50% of you. So, high number. You guys are, in my opinion, our best and brightest for the future, our future leaders. And I hate to see so many of you, leaving Illinois, but we need to go where your opportunities are best, too. Hopefully you can go somewhere, maybe go to a university, get your bachelor's, get your master's or doctorate, whatever you're seeking, and then maybe return to Illinois and help us with some of the issues that we have here in the state. And we'll continue that. So why are so many people leaving the state? And 5 reasons. 5 reasons were high taxes, the budget deficit, crime, lack of employment opportunities, and the weather. So high taxes, Illinois paid the second highest property tax rates in the nation, only behind New Jersey. And then it shows there a number of the taxes that were raised in 2019. And then the city of Chicago, they seem to constantly be raising their city tax rates about every year. So this is a new slide that I put in. According to Wallet Hub, Illinois has the highest overall tax rate in the nation, which is ahead of Connecticut, just ahead of Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, and Kansas. The Illinois tax burden for each person in the state is $8,390 per person. And then when measured as a percentage of home values, Illinois property taxes are the highest in the nation, up over 60% in the last 3 decades. The second reason people are leaving was because of our budget deficit and the state pension crisis. Right now, 1 out of every $4 that the state gets in revenue goes to pay state employees' salaries, pensions for state retirees, along with health benefits for both of them. So, and it seems like the way things are set up, retirees will let's say you retired at $100,000 after 30 or 35 years with the state. You would go ahead and receive $100,000 as your retirement plus a cost of living increase. So you may have retired with $100,000, then the next following year you would get a pension of maybe $103,000 or $104,000, and then each year the cost of living, the COLA, is added to that. So, you know, that's one reason why and that's not done in many states. I mean, there's been some attempts to try to change that. Very generous pension benefits that Illinois does offer, but for the time being, we have to guarantee these payments to those folks that have been our employees or our retirees, and their health benefits were promised. So eventually, it could be one out of every $3 will be going to pay those costs. Okay, according to an editorial by the Chicago Trib, every person in Illinois, including children, currently owes $11,000 per person for state pension costs. The state of Illinois had a payment backlog in 2018 of $6.5 billion. They have alleviated some of that, but there's still some backlog issues with making payments on time. So in Illinois, in 2019, Illinois paid $700 million in late fees alone on invoices, which would have been enough to send 12,000 students to a 4-year college for 4 years each. So this shows, the Chicago Trib said this is what out-of-control deficit spending looks like. And the bond rating for our state has been the worst in the nation for a number of years. And it was downgraded in 2017 to just one step above junk bond status. The bond rates have done a bit better since the new taxes have been imposed by the governor and the state legislature since 2018. But we still have a low bond rating compared to the vast majority of states in the nation. And then we mentioned, why are people leaving Illinois? Crime, and a lot of you probably, if you live in or near the Chicago area, you probably hear something going on every weekend with crime and violence in the cities, and even the downstate areas like where I live at, have experienced a lot of crime in recent years. It doesn't seem to be going down, it seems to always be going up. Lack of employment opportunities, especially lack of employment opportunities for those who live in rural areas. And then the weather. A lot of people just want to get away from the cold Midwest and relocate to other areas or areas where the taxes are less. So the top 6 states are Wisconsin, Indiana, Missouri, Florida, Texas, and California, where folks are moving from Illinois. I spend half of my year in Arizona, and a lot of folks have moved or relocated to Arizona in recent years too. All right, so what we're going to do now, this is going to be the final thing. We're going to have a little trivia contest. Get my information here. Here we go. What I'm going to do is have everybody stand up when we do our trivia contest, and then if you miss a question, you're all going to be eligible for the trivia contest. We have a gift card for the winner of it, by the way, so there is something that of value will be
What kind of gift card?
I'll tell you when we get to it. It's kind of part of it's in the trivia question, like that. So everybody stand up, and then when you miss a question, sit down. Yeah. So here's the first question, and I'm gonna read the answers twice, but first question is it should be an easy one for many of you. Who was the only U.S. president born in the state of Illinois? Was it A, Abraham Lincoln, B, Ulysses S. Grant, C, Ronald Reagan, or D, Barack Obama? Who thinks it was A, Abraham Lincoln? Who thinks it was B, Ulysses S. Grant? Who thinks it was C, Ronald Reagan? Who thinks it was D, Barack Obama? The correct answer is C, Ronald Reagan. Quiet guys. By the way, Reagan was born in 1911 in Tampico, Illinois, which is Whiteside County, not far from the Quad Cities. Okay, next question. According to the 2020 U.S. Census, Chicago remains the largest city in Illinois. Which city is now the second largest city in Illinois? Is it A, Peoria, B, Aurora, C, Springfield, or D, Rockford? Who thinks it was A, Peoria? Who thinks it is B, Aurora? Raise your hands. Who thinks it is C, Springfield? Raise your hands. Who thinks it was D, Rockford? Raise your hands. The correct answer is B. Aurora, Illinois is now the fourth largest. Rockford is third. Yeah, Rockford used to be. Aurora is
They're calling it a city.
getting down. Okay. What restaurant was first opened in Joliet on June 22nd, 1940? Was it A, Dairy Queen? Was it B, Wendy's? Was it C, Cracker Barrel? Or was it D, Pizza Hut? Who thinks it was A, Dairy Queen? Who thinks it was B, Wendy's? Who thinks it was C, Cracker Barrel? And who thinks it was D, Pizza Hut? The correct answer is Dairy Queen was founded in Joliet in 1940. If you didn't answer Dairy Queen, sit down, please. Okay. This is kind of an interesting question, and I'll tell you how they come up with it, the answer afterwards. But according to Rand McNally, they're the map people who make maps. How many miles is it between, officially, how many miles is it between Chicago and St. Louis, Missouri? Officially. So the answers are A, 271 miles, B, 300 miles, C, 341 miles, or D, 397 miles. Who thinks it was A, 271 miles? Who thinks it is B, 300 miles? Who thinks it is C, 341 miles? And who thinks it was D, 397 miles? The correct answer is B, exactly 300 miles distance between Chicago and Okay. Before I ask you to tell you the next one, go down. I tell you what, are there three or four, three of you still left? Three of you come on up to the front here. And before I ask the next question, I want to tell you how they come up with 300 miles. Does anybody here know how they officially show how many miles it is, official miles between towns? Yes?
The measure how far it is from those towns from Chesapeake.
Anybody else have a guess or a thought? Officially, the way they determine mileage is where the post office is located in each town or village. And in the larger towns like Chicago and St. Louis, it would be the central post office. So between the central post office of Chicago and the central post office of St. Louis, it's exactly 300 miles. So they use the post office in each town and village to determine that. Okay, we're down to 3 questions for you guys. What is the westernmost town that lies in Illinois along the Mississippi River? Is it A, Hamilton in Hancock County? Is it B, New Boston in Mercer County? Is it C, Pittsfield in Pike County? Or is it D, Meyer in Adams County? Who thinks it is A, Hamilton in Hancock County? Who thinks it was B, New Boston in Mercer County? Who thinks it was C, Pittsfield in Pike County? And D, Meyer in Adams County? Well, none of you got it right. This one, D, Meyer is in Adams County is the westernmost town or village in Illinois. So you guys will get another question. All right. Which of these places is the geographic center of the state of Illinois? Is it A, Springfield, B, Chatham, C, Logan, or D, Decatur? Who thinks it is
But
A,
it's cats.
Springfield?
What's the cat's name of the state?
Who thinks it was B, Chatham? Who thinks it was C, Logan? And who thinks it is D, Decatur? The correct answer is Logan, Illinois. So you can sit down, and they're down to. So you know where Logan is located at. It's 28 miles northeast of Springfield. That is the geographic center of the state.
They say east.
Okay, which county was the last one established in the state? Was it A, Franklin County, B, Ford County, C, Henderson County, or D, Joe Davies County? Who thinks it was A, Franklin County? Okay, who thinks it was B, Ford County? Who thinks it was C, Henderson County? And who thinks it was D, Joe Davies County? Actually, you guys didn't get it, this one correct. The correct answer was B, Ford County, which was established in 1859, just prior to the Civil War. Okay, let's go down to 2. Chicago has the distinction of building the first of what type of structure? Was it A, the elevated subway, known as the L? Was it B, the automobile bridge over the Chicago River? Was it C, a baseball stadium? Or was it D, steel frame skyscraper? So who thinks it was A, the elevated subway? You voted no.
You got it, no.
Alright, B, the automobile bridge over the Chicago River. C, the stadium, or D, actually it's D. The first steel frame skyscraper was built in Chicago.
It's like New York.
Here's a sports question. The Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox represent Illinois in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'll probably stay with this.
How many World Series have the White Sox and the Cubs won combined? Was it A, 5, B, 6, C, 7, or D, 8? Who thinks it was A, 5? Who thinks it was B, 6? Who thinks it was C, 7 and D, 8? Well, we do have a winner acknowledged. The correct answer is 6, B. We were talking about Dairy Queen being founded in Joliet, so you get a $15 card for Dairy Queen. You guys have any questions before we dismiss you guys so you can go to your primaries? No? I think, yes.
What would you say is reason behind Illinois rivalry?
Behind what? Well, I live in Western Illinois, and our rivalry is with Iowa. So it depends on what part of the state you live in, who you're most, you have the biggest rivalry with. Are there any of the guys here from the Strongers Post West Central High School in this group? Why don't you guys come up afterwards? I'd like to say hi to you guys, at least from my hometown. So we're going to go ahead and dismiss you guys to your county counselors, and you'll be going back and voting.